Welcome aboard! We will be your guides during this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for us because we love the movies. It's showtime! Ready when you are, CB!
Action!
Welcome to Monoreel Radio, episode number 342. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are here this week to review and discuss Ducktales The Movie, The Treasure of the Lost Lamp, as it celebrates its, this hurts, 35th anniversary.
Woo!
Ouch. Was this something that you watched a ton as a kid?
DuckTales? Absolutely. I mean, I was glued to Disney Afternoon every single day. So I feel like I must have seen this somewhere along the way. But to be perfectly honest, I remember nothing. Not a thing.
Interesting. So, wore the VHS out. We watched this nonstop. This was one of our favorite movies to watch when we were kids. So I hadn't seen it in a very long time. And I was curious to see if this was one that was going to hold up, if it was one that felt like it was a ripoff of the show, or whether it just felt like a two-part episode of DuckTales. So I was so invested and excited to finally sit and talk about this because, quite honestly, this is one that I've sort of had on the radar for a long time, really since we launched Monoreel Radio.
I was looking forward to it as well because this was the first Disney Afternoon animated series to get a full-length feature. So really, this sort of walked so that a Goofy movie could run. And I was like, all right, what was the hype around DuckTales? Because I remember enjoying it, but I was like, what is the staying power that caused a reboot later on down the line? I was like, what is it about DuckTales that, keeps everyone coming back? And then I went down such a rabbit hole of the history of it, because I think that most people sort of associate DuckTales as sort of an extension of Scrooge McDuck in A Christmas Carol.
Right.
Which is a natural assumption. But what I didn't realize was that it actually started off as a very popular comic series in the 40s and 50s. And that sort of spawned from the Donald Duck comics even earlier on. I didn't know this. Huey, Dewey, and Louie were introduced in a cartoon strip in 1937. So we're talking about Snow White times that these characters originated. Then they did the comics in the 40s and 50s, which totally tracks because the first episode of DuckTales, Donald is leaving to go off to the Navy. And that's how Scrooge ends up watching Donald's nephews, an entire generation removed. So yeah, the first run of DuckTales started in 1987. It was about 100 episodes over 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And then they did the reboot in 2017. I don't know what it is with the affinity for the sevens with all the history here. But they ran about another 70 episodes over 3 seasons when it came back. And I don't think it ended because it wasn't popular. I think the creators just kind of rounded out the seasons and it sort of tapered off.
You can always tell when a show overstays its welcome. Going off of Disney, one that I remember overstayed its welcome as a kid, Rugrats. I remember Rugrats
dare you?
After a while.
How dare you?
No, I believe after a while, after Dill was introduced, I felt the show had run its course. And frankly, if you do want to talk Disney, picking up where Nickelodeon left off, the continuation of Doug when it moved to ABC, that was very much something that had overstayed its welcome as well.
We're going to have words about Rugrats after the mic's cut, but I will give you Doug. I'm sorry, Disney ruined Doug.
Yeah, we know that.
Movie, awful.
Yeah,
awful.
We don't need to relive that.
Not the same.
But let's stay on track here and stay focused. I have to be honest with you. I didn't know until today that this movie was released in movie theaters. I thought, and I assumed, that this was a straight-to-VHS film because it was piggybacking off Disney Afternoon. And I didn't see this one in the movie theaters. The first time I saw it was on VHS. If I remember correctly, I think this was one that was like in the Easter basket when we were kids. Never saw the movie, but parents were like, well, they love DuckTales, so naturally, let's get them the movie, and it did turn out to be one of our favorites. But I thought that it never saw a theatrical run.
Well, that's where I can say for certain I did not see it in theaters. And if it aired on, maybe Disney Afternoon as like a block of time, or if they did it like as a Wonderful World, maybe I caught it then. But unfortunately, I don't recall. But I can see where you wouldn't think it was a theatrical release because of the runtime. That's
right.
The other thing. It's
very short.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking an hour and 15 minutes with end credits. So it basically is once you factor in commercial time, it's basically 3 episodes of the show combined.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, this was such a gamble because it was the first television series to go for, at least with Disney Afternoon, to go for the full theatrical release. And if it didn't do well, a Goofy movie, never.
Right.
Never. We wouldn't have it.
Well, did this do well in movie theaters? Does it have its staying power? And do I think that kids today would enjoy it? Or are they going to draw too many comparisons to another Disney film? That, on top of many other things, is what we are here to discuss today.
This episode is sponsored by Fierce Fox Co., designers of handmade silkscreen shirts. Fierce Fox has a t-shirt, tank top, hoodie, or crew neck for every fandom. So whether it's the movies or theme parks, princesses or villains, the MCU or Star Wars, everyone will find something they love. The designs range from subtle quotes from our favorite films to iconic characters we can wear proudly in so many different styles, such as sketchbook and concert tees. Listeners of Monoreel Radio can get a 20% discount using the code Monoreel at checkout. Visit fiercefoxco.com to check out all of the collections.
Scrooge McDuck has spent 40 years chasing the treasure of Kali Baba, as has the evil sorcerer Murloc. When they discover Kali Baba's pyramid and then the treasure, their guide Dijon double-crosses them and gives the treasure to Murloc. Murloc leaves them for dead, but is infuriated when he sees that the lamp of Kali Baba is missing. Scrooge had given it to Webby for her tea set because the whole family, as well as Launchpad, has gone on this excursion. 2 days later in Duckburg, Scrooge remains infuriated and embarrassed for having lost the treasure. As Webby polishes the lamp, it summons Genie, who grants Webby, Huey, Dewey, and Louie 3 wishes each. Webby wishes for a pet elephant, and chaos ensues, forcing the boys to burn a wish by wishing the elephant away. Genie warns them to keep their wishes small and begs to not be returned to the lamp following Scrooge's return home. They pretend that he is a boy named Gene and that he is a new kid that they have met. They spent the day wishing and playing with Genie. Meanwhile, Murloc spies on them. While having a tea party, Webby wishes all of her toys and dolls to life, leading to further chaos. Meanwhile, Scrooge decides to not attend the ball for adventurers and explorers and treasure hunters because he is still very embarrassed by what has happened. He also sees the insanity, and the boys are forced to use their final wish to put an end, and it exposes Genie to Scrooge, who then wishes for Kali Baba's treasure to show off at the ball and save his reputation. Against the children's wishes, Scrooge banishes Genie back into the lamp. Murloc and Dijon follow them to the ball, where Genie tells Scrooge that all he wants is to be free. But Scrooge puts him back in the lamp and promises to lock him in the vault for safety because he does not want to fall back into the hands of Murloc. Scrooge returns home to see that Dijon has in fact gotten the lamp because due to a comedy of errors, the lamp gets switched with a gravy boat at the party, and it is Dijon that finds the lamp. And instead of giving it back to Murloc, Genie convinces him to use wishes so that he no longer has to live under the hand of Murloc. So when Scrooge finds that Dijon wished for Scrooge's wealth, he also sees that he took over Scrooge's business and has him jailed. Scrooge's family sets bail and they decide to go back to the mansion where they can save Genie and set everything right. They break in because they know all of the security codes to the mansion and are followed by Murloc, who gets the lamp and uses his talisman to give him infinite wishes. He turns Dijon into a pig and the mansion into a fortress, which starts to fly away into the sky. Scrooge fights back against Murloc, who loses his talisman and falls to his death. Eventually, Scrooge does get the lamp back. He wishes everything back to normal and grants Genie his freedom.
So the opening took me right back.
Oh, yeah.
And not even in the sense of the theme song, because that's not used until the very end over the end credits. Just this style of animation. I was immediately a child again.
Yes.
Having just gotten home from school. And I didn't realize how much I missed it. And
I know.
It sounds kind of silly, but this is such a specific style of animation because, you know, they were cranking out these episodes. You know, this is television. It's got to go much faster. They don't have the same amount of time as they would if they were working on a full-length animated feature. So I think the result was this sort of like 2D background where they're painting the depth in because you don't have enough time to create that multiplane camera sort of effect. And we're not fully using computers to achieve that yet either. The computers really started being peppered in with certain effects in Little Mermaid. And they certainly didn't bring them to any of the Disney afternoon shows until a little bit later on. But it was just that 2D background with the animation popping off of it. And it was so nostalgic, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, and the animation is beautiful.
It really is.
Specifically the detail inside the pyramid.
And the canyons.
Yeah.
They looked great.
Yeah, the colors, they still pop. They still look outstanding. I thought that the setup, to your point, it's a quick setup because originally this was made, it was conceived as a 5-part episode of DuckTales. It was a 5-parter that they were doing. And that was where the idea came from, and then they decided to roll it into a film. So the setup is quick because it does, if there is one thing that stands out as I watch it as an adult, it does just feel like a very long episode of the show. That's not to say that it's bad, but the setup is quick, it's easy to follow, and frankly, I think it sort of does make sense for Scrooge, because we obviously know he's got the infinite wealth, and obviously, he wants a lot more of it. All you have to do is watch the opening credit for any episode of DuckTales to see that that's what he's all about.
Right.
But I like that they doubled down, and this isn't just a business endeavor for him. It's sort of an ego trip for him, that he has to go and find this treasure. Nobody else has been able to find it, and like everything else, he conquers everybody else, and he's got the resources to do it.
That's what I like so much about Scrooge McDuck, because I feel like I said earlier, most people know him from A Christmas Carol, and he is the hardened miser. I mean, that's the character, right?
Right.
You know, before he goes and gets his visits from the ghosts and all that. But I think he kind of gets the bad rap for still being painted as this greedy, ego-driven character, like you said. But I think the difference, especially because these films are so adventure-driven and they're family adventures, it's not just the money that he's after. Because he's been able to attain all of his wealth himself, he knows where every piece of gold, he knows where every diamond, he knows where it all came from. So there are memories attached to it too.
Yeah.
And I feel like they did a really good job of unpacking that in this film, especially when he ends up in jail.
Yeah.
But circling back to what you said, I do agree with you. There are points where it does feel like this is just one long episode, you know, that they stretch that 22 minutes, but not necessarily in a bad way. Like,
right.
We've seen worse films that ended up as features that started off as television shows, and you can see exactly where they tried to chewing gum and paperclip it together. Looking at you, Moana 2.
Or Belle's Magical Tales.
Oof.
That's probably the worst of them.
I forget about that. Can this be the last time we bring that up on Monoreel Radio, please?
Sure.
Because every time it happens,
I know.
I bury it deep, and I hate when it resurfaces.
Yeah. I always too. We get introduced to Murloc very easily, or very early, I should say. I always loved him. Even as a kid, I loved Murloc as a villain.
I wonder if that has anything to do with who voiced Murloc.
No, it is independent of the fact that Christopher Lloyd voices him. It's just because I think he's a really good villain. These are the villains that I like. And it sort of like going into Disney Afternoon 2, Don Carnage. I always like Don Carnage. I love Jafar. You know what I'm saying? Like, Hades, I love on a completely different level. To me, he's at the top of the food chain. But it's these savvy, smarmy, arrogant ones with the sort of wicked sense of humor and the diabolical nature. Like, these are the ones that I'm driven towards.
I think you bring up a really good point, and I'm only realizing this now. Disney Afternoon villains were sort of a different breed, and I think that has to do with the fact... Magica was another great one. Oh my God, loved Magica. But I think that has to do with the nature of it being confined to episodic television, and you have to set it up quickly, get in, get out. So they were evil, but they didn't need a lot of motivation. There weren't really deep backstories, so they were just evil for evil's sake, and as a result they were so much more fun. So I agree with you. I think he's a good villain. The only thing that I wish they unpacked a little bit more, because we are in a feature-length animation, is this ability that he's got to put the talisman on the lamp, and he's got unlimited wishes. So keeping in mind that this does predate Aladdin, and the wish parameters as we know them, there are still wish parameters in any genie story that need to be followed, right? Much like when you have a vampire movie and they don't get invited into the house, it sets you off like nothing else.
Yep.
So I think just because of the genre here, I was expecting a little bit more rules that we needed to work within. Mm-hmm. And because Murloc has already violated said rules, or they don't exist, it's kind of like, all right, how did he come to power in the first place with the talisman? Because that wasn't a result of the genie.
Right.
He got unlimited wishes sort of his own accord. So I kind of just wanted to know a little bit more about how he came to be. The motivation of why he wants the land back is totally crystal clear. Obviously, he just wants all the power. You know, Jafar was also a sorcerer, but he still wanted to be all powerful. But I think we had a little bit more room to breathe with this, and I wish that they would have taken it. But all that being said, I do like that he is the big bad. I like that you've got Dijon playing both sides, because he's been hired by Scrooge, but he's really answering to Murloc. And I like that we have the other henchmen that we meet at the beginning of the archaeological dig. I wish they had been peppered out throughout the rest of the film a little bit more. And I thought they were going to be, because they look so much... I know they're supposed to be dogs, which is riffing off the whole Kali Baba. So clever, by the way. It's supposed to be, you know, a runner, that they're all dogs. And I think Dijon clearly looks like a dog. But because they didn't draw in the ears on the rest of them, they sort of look like the Roger Rabbit weasels to me.
Yeah, or you could even make a case that they're rats.
Like, or the Roger Rabbit weasels were also Mr. Toad.
Yes.
So I thought this was sort of alluding to we might all be in the same universe at some point.
It could be. Speaking of archaeological digs, something that bothered me as a kid and still bothers me now, 4 children, Launchpad, Scrooge, and 4 henchmen with regular shovels dug this pyramid out way too fast.
Yeah.
I know it's such a dumb thing, but when I was 5 years old and this movie came out, and I said, how did they do that? I like how they find it, because Launchpad trips over what he thinks is like a rock, or he kicks it, and it turns out that it's the top of the pyramid. but I wish that they would have like dug around and found the door instead.
I would agree with that, especially because up until now, the farcical nature of this has worked really well as far as like, all right, you've got the 4 really young children on an adventure that they probably shouldn't be on. Launchpad has crashed the plane and wrecked some ancient ruins. And like, that was also nostalgic for me because that is so the character. So I agree with you. I wish it had been Launchpad sort of falling upwards into this.
Yeah.
Which is sort of what they try to do with having him trip, but I wish the sand maybe like melted away because of something that he did accidentally. You also get this really great sight gag when they're riding the camels through the desert. I just love this. Huey, Dewey, and Louie are on like a 3-humped camel. So clever.
Yeah. Once they get in to the pyramid, I just remember the use your marbles thing. And they quite literally use their marbles to set off the booby traps in the pyramid.
I'm so glad you bring that up. That is such Muppety humor. And I was so here for it. When they say, you know, it's that play on words, use your marbles like use your brain, but they literally have a bag of marbles. The only thing I don't love about that is that the marbles, there is no way they are heavy enough to trip some of these buttons, especially because they're stone buttons. Like, this is sort of Temple of Doom for all intents and purposes. I think it was heavily inspired by Indiana Jones. So there's no way I buy, unless it was the full bag of marbles, that they're going to be enough to trip the booby traps.
Something else you want to talk about Muppety humor, when they do eventually find the treasure, and Scrooge talks about how he wants to take the treasure, he's going to give it to museums and it'll be there for display, and they go, well, that doesn't sound like Uncle Scrooge, and he goes, and I can do so for a hefty tax break, and they go, that does. It's like that, like I understood that was something Scrooge would do when I was a kid, but I didn't understand how funny the line was until now. So I kind of like that I've been able to grow with the movie.
Well, not only that, but if you think about it, in the time period when it aired, that was the brilliance of these cartoons, is that you could watch them as a family, and a parent would have gotten a chuckle. I'm laughing at it now, but I mean, that's it. We're older now. You know, we appreciate the joke. I really like how, even though Murloc is about to double cross them, obviously, they still manage to get the lamp out, where Weddy wants the lamp for her tea set. It's just such a great, innocent and believable way to remove it from the rest of the treasure.
Right, because they're going through everything, and she thinks that it's just pretty for the tea set, and Scrooge is all but happy to give it to her because he says it's just an old oil lamp. And in fact, he says it's hardly worth even taking. So he doesn't mind giving it to her. And then you get the scene with when Murloc does double-cross them. These massive scorpions, these scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Really?
Because I know they're not real, but there's a matter of like, if I'm in this situation, how could I possibly escape this? And that was something that I thought about, like, if this were me, I'd be dead.
I do like that they're larger than life.
Yes.
I thought that was really fun. That's just, you know, a great way to use the animation medium to make them big and make them more menacing, because nobody likes a creepy crawly scorpion.
No.
And that's what you're going to find in places like that. So I like that they put enough of a twist on it to give us something recognizable and something that's almost expected, but because they made it so much bigger, I thought it really worked for this, and it raised the stakes as far as the escape goes. The only thing that I bump on a little bit in this sequence is that you're sort of cutting back and forth to our main squad getting away, and you're seeing Dijon double cross them and reporting back to Murloc, so they realize the lamp is no longer there. And Dijon, you know, he's trying to steal as much treasure as he can. He's like, don't worry, I'll get it for you. Then you cut back to the family, check in, make sure they're okay. I mean, for the audience's sake, they got out of it. And then we go back to Murloc and Dijon, and then Murloc threatens him to have to go get it. So that's sort of where I feel like maybe this was the end of the break of the first episode, or what was supposed to be the first one, and then you're resetting the second one, because it sort of doesn't make sense that Dijon has already established she's going to go get it. You didn't necessarily need to threaten him.
Well, at that point, runtime in the film, if you would have factored in commercial breaks, you probably would have been towards the end of the episode by that point. So I think that you're right. Let's get back to Duckburg, though. It's a couple of days later, and innocently, the kids have the lamp. It was the one thing they escaped with. And Webby is just polishing it. Granny gave her the polish, and she's all excited. We're going to have a tea party. And the boys want nothing to do with it. And as soon as she polishes it, out comes Genie. So much fun. I love Genie as a character. He doesn't know how long he's been in there.
Did Rome fall yet? I loved that. I loved it.
Even better is he goes into Scrooge's library, he reads the entire encyclopedia, and then he says, "Weird that Caesar would build his palace in Las Vegas," was an all-time great line. And I know that at this point, it's 1991, and Aladdin is coming out the following year. And you don't really need to write for Robin Williams, because he can just kind of go off and do his thing. And he's in the sound booth at this point. But I wondered at this point, were they using Genie and how wacky he is with the tongue-in-cheek, specifically tongue-in-cheek humor that only adults would understand, if they were using that to test what they could do with Genie and Aladdin.
It's possible, but I also wonder how much they tried to deliberately stay away from that. And that's why we don't necessarily get the wish parameters, because they didn't want to completely rehash Aladdin, or they knew what they were using for Aladdin and they didn't want it to be too similar. Speaking of funny Caesar lines, though, I do have to tell a quick story, because it is one of my favorite Sean lines of all time about Caesar. We were in Atlantic City, naturally, and you had done really, really well on a roulette table, and we were leaving for the night. I think that was the time we ended up staying a second night, because you did so well.
No, that was at Golden Nugget.
That's right. It was. Well, it was it was the first time we went.
Yes.
On a whim. And we were walking out of the casino, and I said, "You robbed Caesar blind." And without missing a beat, Sean goes, "Well, at least I didn't stab him in the back." And it, to this day, just rings out in my mind anytime I hear Caesar's Palace, because it was just so funny.
One of my all-time favorite casinos. I love Caesar's.
Your timing was just unbelievable with that. Circling back to Genie, though, what I don't love, I feel like, you were talking about maybe writing to the adult humor, but as far as the physical comedy of it all, I feel like he is just chaos for chaos sake, and he's making a mess of everything, even before he starts granting wishes. And I feel like that was supposed to just be directed toward the kids to maybe, just feel like this high energy, frenetic scene. I mean, that's just a personal thing of mine. I don't love that type of humor. Like, it took me forever to appreciate National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and to realize the comedies that everything that Chevy Chase's character tries to do is being thwarted by the family. And I sort of feel like that's what was happening here a little bit. The Genie is just causing chaos, and I wish that they had more leaned into comedy coming from, we have to keep him hidden, because that doesn't last very long.
But the hiding in plain sight, I thought that was great. Having him pretend to be a kid because he is the same height as the nephews and Webby, I thought that I loved that as a kid.
That's what I'm saying, though. I wish they had done more of that. And we had like stretched this out a little bit more over a couple of days, as opposed to just shoving him in the closet when Scrooge comes up to the room.
I also feel like the kids wouldn't have burned their wishes in one day. I feel like they would have stretched them out a little bit. I gotta tell you, something I didn't like as a kid, and I still don't like now, Webby. Webby's wishes are chaos for chaos' sake. Like, the first time around, it's fine when she wishes for the baby elephant, because every kid wants an elephant, a pony, some monstrosity of an animal. And, because at first she's like, maybe we can wish for a pet. And because Genie had said these are wishes, not miracles, and everything else, and he was like, yeah, that works. And of course she goes larger than life. That's fine to set up the whole idea that he is going to say, keep the wishes small, I don't want to be exposed, and the bigger the wish, the bigger the trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But for her to then turn around and wish all of her toys to life, especially when a lot of them are tigers and bears and, they're stuffed animals. Like, there was just, it's like, she didn't learn the first time. The boys had to burn one wish. I mean, the boys burned almost a third of their wishes, picking up her mess, that she continued to make the same mistake over and over again.
Right. And there's 12 wishes between the 4 of them.
Right.
They're each getting 3.
And 4 of them get burned, 2 on her bad decisions and 2 to fix the bad decisions.
See, I don't mind that, though, because I think that it sort of makes sense, as far as you have to think in the context of, these are descendants of Scrooge McDuck, who's got all the money in the world. So they already have anything that they could ever want. I mean, granted, part of the character is that he's frugal. He's not going to be buying them all of, he's not going to be indulging their every whim, but they want for nothing, they're
right.
Well off. So I think that's where it did work in that sense, because if they have all the toys in the world, what else could you wish for? You have to go bigger with it. So I actually thought that made a lot of sense. I just think that this was another instance where you have the time, let it breathe a little bit. And that could have even been a line from either Huey, Dewey, or Louie of, let's make these good. Let's think about it a little bit, because we have so much already. Let's have some fun. And then Webby goes rogue because she doesn't understand that, there are consequences. And she is supposed to be like a little bit younger, I think, too.
Yeah.
So I think they could have unpacked that sort of dynamic between all of them a little bit more, especially because Huey, Dewey, and Louie are supposed to embody different facets of Scrooge. Like, one is his brains, one is his sense of adventure, and another is sort of that cautiousness when it comes to money. So I wish that they had sort of played that off of each other a little bit more. And instead, we're getting the Genie, to your point, talking about, keep them small. Let's not expose me. But I thought it was interesting to have him be sort of self-centered when thinking about the consequences of the wishes. And he's not really, I feel like most genies preach that lesson of be careful what you wish for. And he doesn't care how absurd it is, as long as it's not going to expose him, not even to Scrooge. It's just Murloc that he's afraid of. He doesn't want to be found.
And what's smart is, up to this point, we don't really know why he is so afraid of Murloc. Murloc is a sorcerer. He can do basically anything that he wants. And at this point, all we know is that you get 3 wishes. Murloc has already been his master once before. How many wishes could he possibly have left? All we know is that Murloc continues to spy on the situation. He's trying to get Dijon to go and steal the lamp back, but we don't know. We know that the talisman can shapeshift him into a hawk, but we don't know what it can do for the lamp yet. And I think that they held that, and that was a really good hold for later on in the film. once we get through the exposure that is who Genie really is to Scrooge, I remember being so upset on his behalf and being, like, as a kid, being so mad that Scrooge would force him back into that lamp.
You're right. I think that comes from a really brilliant setup here, because even though chaos has ensued, there is still a little bit of a bond forming, particularly between the genie and the boys. You know, when they're settling in that first night, and he's like, so this is what it feels like to just, you know, have a normal life. So he's finally starting to relax, and then Scrooge reminds him of his lot in life. The only thing that I want to see the inside of that lamp. You know, I mean, maybe that's from like I Dream of Jeannie, because that was such a cool set that they built for her. Granted, totally different type of a show, and you know, you needed a set piece like that because she spent so much time in there. But I wish that we could have seen a little glimpse inside, especially because he is so afraid to go back in. Maybe the conditions are horrible in there.
Right.
So especially when he has to shrink Scrooge down to hide in there, I really wanted to see it.
Something else that stood out to me, because now we're getting ready to go to this ball, right? There's some wild weather in Duckburg, man. You somehow are a helicopter plane or a helicopter flight away from being in a desert with pyramids and ancient ruins, having beautiful greenery and warm weather where you can play outside in Duckburg, and waist-deep snow, all within 3 days of each other.
See, that didn't bother me as much because in the beginning, they were on a bigger plane. So I kind of felt like the pyramids were farther away, but they don't have the plane to get back. You're right. So it may not actually be that far. The notion of the snow and nice weather, though, I'll buy that. Think about upstate New York. I mean, we were months away from getting snow on Long Island, and they were getting it upstate. I can buy that one.
Something else that stood out to me in this scene in particular, because now you're getting a lot more with Murloc. He's shape-shifting a lot more. There's an echo that I thought was bad sound editing, because on the VHS tape, it really didn't stand out. What I realized, though, after the second viewing, is that the echo that exists is not cheap, poor sound editing. The echo only exists whenever Murloc is summoning magic.
Interesting. I didn't catch that. I caught it more, obviously, when the genie's talking from inside the lamp. Like, that was a fun little effect that they did to make it sound, you know, obviously more muffled.
Right.
But nice catch there.
It's also, like, Murloc shape-shifting is so much fun. He's fun the entire time. To travel quickly, he's a hawk. To get into buildings and to get around sight unseen, he can be a fly, he can be a cockroach, or a rat. The cockroach and the rat are just perfect, though.
Especially with Granny and the rat. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved that scene.
It's a ton of fun. And then I thought they did a really good job setting up this swap with the lamp and the gravy boat. When they're trying to evade him, Scrooge comes out of one of the rooms that they're hiding in. He crashes into what is like a room service push cart, because they're in this I guess I suppose it would be a hotel that's got a ballroom for this event. And he's in such a rush that he bumps into it, everything goes everywhere, and he and Dijon just happen to grab the wrong things. I love that setup, and I love the fact that Genie outsmarts Dijon, but Dijon outsmarts Scrooge.
Yes. What I really love is that when he drops the lamp, you know, you don't get, and I think this is probably more typical of a live action, when he sees both of them and both of them look alike, and then the character sort of weighs them out in his hands and doesn't know which is which because they look so similar, but it's very obvious to the audience which is the wrong one.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that here because the genie would be calling out of one of them.
Right.
So I like that it was just a case of one got left behind, he grabbed the other one, and they pulled the old switcheroo.
Yeah. I remember as a kid and appreciating it more now that Dijon did not just wish to be rich, he wished for Scrooge's wealth.
Yeah.
And changed history.
That was the brilliance of it, is it wasn't the monetary value that he wanted. It wasn't, I want to be as rich as Scrooge. He positions himself to take over, which also sets up the break-in, which I really love, that Scrooge knows every single facet of the security system that he's got in play. I love when any kind of television show or film does that, where you have to break in to your own home. Like Richie Rich comes to mind.
Yep.
Which is really fun. Or even like in a Home Alone type of way where he's protecting his home.
Yeah.
It's just, you have all of this knowledge and now you're going to use it for your protection or your gain or against someone else. So I thought this whole thing was really fun, especially like with dodging the lasers and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was great.
And I don't know if you caught this or not. It's so subtle. I was very close to putting it as my where in the film. Very close. But I opted not to. Scrooge, when they start this invasion of the mansion, it's very subtle. He's no longer wearing his signature top hat. They switch him into a green beret.
Yeah,
I
love it.
It's so smart.
I love it. So along with Scrooge and Huey, Dewey, and Louie breaking in, Murloc, as you mentioned, has now transformed into a cockroach. So he gets in as well. He can dodge all of the security systems. He gets the lamp back and he makes a wish that he wants to transport the tower into his... Why you would want to revert back to this like crumbled, it looks like where Maleficent lived, you know?
Oh, it's Casa de Cuckoo.
But I love the transformation that it doesn't just happen instantaneously. The tower crumbles. So what's happening inside is that everything else is shape-shifting and staircases are moving around and the kids are like trapped on a crumbling staircase. I thought that was so cool, instead of just having the genie like... And it happens.
Yeah.
I like that we got to see it play out. I don't know that I buy that it turned into a spacecraft for Murloc to go home. Because he says, I want this home in actual home. Like, this should be just an instance of poof, and you're there. But then you also don't get the high stakes drama of, you know, Scrooge falling off and plummeting and the back and forth of the lamp in midair and who's going to get to it first. I mean, I understand that they have to raise the stakes, but I feel like we've completely lost the plot as far as the genie goes at this point.
Yeah. At this rate, because now, and I think part of that could be because the talisman is now involved, because now we see what the power of the talisman is, other than just allowing him to be a shapeshifter, how the talisman now fits on top of the opening of the lamp. It becomes a part of the lamp, and this is what gives him the infinite wishes, so it breaks the rule of, you know, wish granting. And it also finally exposes why it means so much for Merlin to get it, or Murloc to get it back, and why the genie does not want him to get it back. So again, I like that they held it to the very end. It wasn't something that they teased throughout the movie, like, oh, but he's got the talisman and it'll give him forever power. I'm glad that they held it for this moment.
The only thing that I wish that they had set up sort of in line with that was the idea of wishing the genie free. I feel like that is part of the genre with any genie story. So I feel like that would have been part of the motivation why he was so afraid to go back to Murloc, because he has the infinite wishes. He's never going to wish him free. You have to find someone who can be okay with 2 solid wishes and then use the third one on him. So I kind of wish that that was maybe something that they had sprinkled in. But they do deliver on it. Scrooge still has the one more wish. How do you feel, though, about Scrooge wishing for Genie to be a real boy instead of wishing for freedom? Because I tend to think that that was because of Aladdin coming down the pike. So I feel like this was an area where you had to separate the two. But then we go all the way back to Pinocchio with real boy.
I'm fine with it going back to Pinocchio because you couldn't just wish him for you couldn't wish for his freedom when you had Aladdin coming out the following year. It would have just been too much. I mean, as it stands, it's almost too close. But the idea was this adventure film where you're going to find a lamp, there's going to be a genie, there's going to be an evil sorcerer. I don't really know how else you end this film without... Because if you don't end it with him being free, then, I mean, what's the point? There's no happy ending. So you have to do it. So I think less people draw a comparison to Pinocchio, and more people would have and still do draw a comparison to Aladdin, especially because they were released right on the heels of each other.
Right. I'm not questioning that he's free in any capacity. You're right. That did need to happen. It's just, I don't know, something about not wishing for freedom does feel odd, but there is a little bit of a payoff in that they set up the idea that Genie did feel like one of the boys, and he did want to be friends, not just friends with anyone. He wanted to be a kid with them. So I guess it does work for this story.
It does. Do you have anything else to add on this?
No.
Right. Well, this obviously is rooted with a ton of Disney characters that, as you pointed out earlier, have a long history with the company, and of course are coming off the heels of a tremendous television show, which was a huge hit. So you'd think that there would be a lot of things perhaps that could be buried here in the film. Where in the Film is brought to you by our friends at Where in the Park, a seek and find card game that you can play in your favorite parks. Whether it's Disney or Universal, SeaWorld, and more, Where in the Park challenges you to spot those little details that so many can miss. To order your game packs, visit monoreelradio.com and click our affiliate link for a 10% discount today.
So there were probably a lot of Easter eggs, particularly like in the hotel event scene, that had I been watching DuckTales a little bit more regularly leading up to this, that I would have been able to catch. But for me, it was a lot of the background animation, particularly in Huey, Dewey, and Louie's room. They have a Nautilus up on their shelves, which I thought was really cute.
So I found something that I didn't think I was going to find. As a kid, in the scene where the scorpions are attacking them, they put the basket over their heads to escape.
Yup.
And one of the scorpions punches a hole in the basket. They then use the basket as a boat to float away. And as a kid, I could never figure out how and why the thing didn't sink. It was not until the second viewing, and it is literally like a frame. It is very quick. They take one of the boys' backpacks and stuff it into the hole to seal it. But it is a blink and you'll miss it moment.
Oh, wow. That's a great... I was so distracted by the fact that they used the phrase, "it's turtle time," when they used the shell, and I was like, oh, that's copyright infringement.
Well, they pushed the envelopes just enough. Faster than a speeding bull.
Yes. Yeah.
Able to leap in a single town. Like, they go just far enough where it's not copyright infringement, but we know what they're ripping on.
That was super fun, though. And that's another great instance of great for kids, great for adults.
But I'm glad that 35 years later, I've been able to answer my question as to why it didn't sink. Let's talk about our voice cast here, starting with Alan Young, who plays Scrooge McDuck. I mean, iconic. iconic in entertainment and absolutely iconic as this character. Scrooge McDuck was a tremendous part of my childhood. It's amazing that as I get closer to 40, Scrooge McDuck is still a tremendous part of my life. One of my all-time favorite characters.
It's an incredible performance every single time because the accent should get so old and it should feel so over the top, and it doesn't at all. And here, to your point, they lean into it where they put him in a green beret, but he also looks like he's got a kilt on at that point. So what should get stale never really does.
Russi Taylor plays Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Webby. So all four characters, a lot of people knew her best as the voice of Minnie Mouse. So again, extremely versatile voice actress and a complete legend in the Disney community. And interesting to point out that she voiced all four characters, because if you look at the cast list for this movie, it's very, very small. So that, I think, played a big hand in why they were able to make movies like this, specifically make this kind of film, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 people made up the entire cast.
Oh, yeah. And that was typical of any Disney afternoon show. It's why Jim Cummings is Jim Cummings now, right?
Yeah.
How many
He's
characters
the only one that's not in this movie.
Yeah, I know. And I was listening for him too. I was wondering if he did sort of like a loop or like a background character. No, not at all. But I really like I like that Huey, Dewey, and Louie specifically are voiced by the same person, because it's more fun to write to the personalities in the dialogue than have them do a different voice. I don't mind that it sounds the same because they're each going to have a different personality. So I think that's, maybe it is a budget-driven decision, but it's a clever one. It's a creative way around it.
Yeah, Terry McGovern plays Launchpad. We all know him. We love him. But Launchpad very much is a background player in this film. Very little screen time, and other than getting Scrooge from point A to point B and inadvertently finding the pyramid, Launchpad kind of lost in this movie.
I would totally agree with that. And it was kind of a bummer because he just felt like part of Scrooge's house staff. And that's not the case. I mean, honestly, Launchpad is such a huge character. That's sort of where Tailspin came from. We know Darkwing Duck was a spinoff of DuckTales, but Tailspin was supposed to be because Launchpad had his whole flight crew.
Right.
And that's why, there's similar names, DuckTales, Tailspin. So, yeah, I kind of feel like they done him a little dirty in this.
Richard Libertini plays Dijon, the henchman. Great comic relief.
Yeah.
The performance is great. And like I said earlier, I love how the character subverts expectations by wishing for Scrooge's wealth as opposed to just wanting money. That he specifically wanted his money.
I feel like we didn't talk about him a lot in our recap other than as a plot point, but he really is the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually sort of why, or probably why, Launchpad does take the back seat, because this character does have so much screen time. But yeah, really, really great comic relief.
Rip Taylor plays Genie. Rip Taylor, very eccentric. So if you're not going to have Robin Williams, obviously he was being taken up for Aladdin. Rip Taylor, though, I know maybe you don't love this character as much. I certainly do. I thought the casting was perfect. I thought the performance was over the top, even by cartoon standards. I think it worked.
I think that's why maybe I bump on the real boy thing so much, because Genie is supposed to sound older. This is not Rip Taylor doing his impression of a child's voice. It is him channeled through a character.
Yeah.
And I wish they had sort of played that for comedy a little bit more, that he is a boy but sounds, like a 40 or 50-year-old man, especially with a little bit of an accent. But I mean, it just goes to show how popular this series was, that you landed two like whales of casting with Rip Taylor and, of course, our next character, Christopher Lloyd.
As Murloc, underrated Disney villain, gets a lot of screen time. Menacing, diabolical, but not over the top. I mean, that's the thing. For Christopher Lloyd, he didn't push it to 11, right? He doesn't become Judge Doom. He's very, very restrained if you think about it. Like, and, given the fact that he's voicing a cartoon character, like, now would be the time to really go over the top. But it's a complete departure from a lot of the characters that you're used to him playing. I think he's phenomenal. And he's got a great villain death, by the way.
He does. I love him as a villain. I mean, of course, we all love him in comedies. He's brilliant. He's brilliant with physical comedy. His timing is great. But some of my favorite Christopher Lloyd roles are the more offbeat ones, like in Camp Nowhere, where he's essentially playing an alcoholic. And he's a very complex character. It's not what you're expecting from him. To me, my favorite Christopher Lloyd villain, though, he's Rasputin in Anastasia. And he knocks it out of the park. So, like, I'm so used to already hearing him do that, because that was I burnt out the VHS, though not a Disney movie, though it is now in the Fox acquisition. And I am going to make Sean review it for the show, so help me.
Doesn't count. Won't happen.
Down the line, it's going to count.
No, it doesn't.
But he's so brilliant in that. I feel like as great of a villain as Murloc is, because I already have him in my head as Rasputin, it's not like this is like mind-blowing for me. It's a great performance, but I wasn't surprised by it in any way.
Final thoughts on Ducktales the movie. I'll go ahead and let you go first.
Well, this viewing has made me painfully aware of how much I need to go back and watch Ducktales as a series. Like, complete rewatch from the beginning, including the reboot, because it's just so fun. This is just one of those incredible instances of what animation as a medium does, where you can have a fun story, an adventure story, and like really stretch it out and push the limits and push the boundaries, and things don't always have to make sense, and they may seem over the top, but that's okay, because it all ends up working in a really fun, really hyper stylized way. And that is my plea. If you've never seen it, just check out DuckTales for the animation style, because it's so great. And I feel like people are, especially our generation, passing it down to their kids. In particular, I mean, I know two of our friends that are having their kids watch this. One listeners will know Mike, who enjoys his Mickey ice cream bars on a Disney cruise,
yes, is
showing his 3-year-old daughter DuckTales for the first time, and not the reboot. He's starting from the beginning, and she loves it. So, that's my hope, is that our generation is finding it on Disney Plus and showing it to their kids. And the animation holds up so well, kids are never going to know that this was from the 80s. They're never going to know that it's not a current show. And that's what I'm hoping, is maybe we get like a Disney afternoon sort of revival. Like, I know our generation rewatches these shows all the time, but especially if it starts hitting with younger demographics, I feel like it's better than a lot of the current stuff now. So that would be great if it keeps going.
Yeah. I'm very tempted to give this movie perfect marks, but for a handful of reasons, I don't. And I think part of it is because it was so similar to Aladdin, and Aladdin was right after this. Like, it almost puts an unfair shadow on this film, but because the two of them are just so similar, I almost can't do it. And I think that the timing of it, just because they're so close together, there are moments where it does feel like the same conclusion twice. However, with all of that said, I think this movie is timeless. I felt this movie was timeless when I finished watching it yesterday. But to the point you just made, yeah, somebody we know is showing it to a 3-year-old who's seeing it for the first time, and she loves it. And the fact that a child can watch something that's 40 years old, and it's not the new shiny computer animation, that it is traditional hand-drawn, that the characters are engaging, that the stories are interesting, that the villains are a lot of fun. DuckTales is timeless. This movie is timeless. It still looks great. It did pave the way for further Disney afternoon shows to be turned into films. And what it did actually was it bombed at the box office. It lost money. And there were going to be more DuckTales films that got canceled because Disney was disheartened with the return in the theaters, despite the movie having fairly good reviews. However, what changed the game and what saved future Disney afternoon shows and their theatrical components, their counterparts, were the home video sales. See, the thing is, this movie sold over 2 million copies of home video and made, just on home video, $32 million.
Wow.
So, $20 million to make the film, a hair over $18 million at the box office. That within itself is a failure. But then when you factor in 32 million, so they turned 20 million into 50 million. That's what did it, and that's what saves this film. That's what saved the rest of the Disney afternoon. There were other films that came out that summer that, you can't see it all, right? So this fell victim to that. I think it was still a popular franchise, though. It was at the tail end of its run on television, so I think perhaps enthusiasm was waning a little bit. If this movie had come out 2 years prior, I think this would have been a tremendous success. But with all of that being said, the movie is timeless, it's near perfect, and I enjoy it as much now as I did when I was a kid. And I implore anybody who has, if you've never seen it, watch it. If you've got kids, it's family movie night. You have to show them this. The film is still that good 35 years later. But we are interested in hearing what you have to say about DuckTales the movie. You can let us know on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, or you can send us an email, monoreelradio@gmail.com. News of the week is coming up, but first a quick break.
News of the Week is proudly sponsored by KMV Travel. KMV Travel is a boutique travel agency that helps families plan personalized vacations and create unforgettable memories in the most magical place on earth. Planning for a Disney vacation can be stressful, but it doesn't need to be when you're working with a KMV Travel specialist who will work with you to customize the perfect vacation for you and your family. Your KMV Travel Advisor will help you determine what parks to visit on each day, ensure you know the ins and outs of essential tools like My Disney Experience and Genie Plus apps, assist with dining reservations, and of course, share their favorite hacks so you get the most out of your vacation. Visit kmvtravel.com to start making magic now.
When we were planning our first family trip to Disney World, Jackie was the first person that we thought of.
Jackie helped us with every step of the planning, and she helped us pick the right hotel for our itinerary and our budget.
She also gave us great recommendations when it came to scheduling our parks, our dining reservations, and the attractions.
These days, it feels like there's a lot that goes into planning a Disney trip, and there's a lot that we just didn't know about Disney World, and we're just so thankful for Jackie's advice in making it all a little bit easier.
Yeah, when we got to the property, we realized we wanted to add on another park day, so we texted Jackie early in the morning, and she got back to us right away, and that really helped us make it happen.
We had some amazing meals and drinks. We went to Cinderella's Royal Table, we went to Oga's Cantina, we rode Rise of the Resistance without waiting on a long line. And on Jackie's recommendation, we saw the Epcot fireworks from the Skyliner.
This was an unforgettable family trip to Disney World, and Jackie made it happen.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thunderbolts is hitting Disney Plus on August 27th, and August 27th can't come fast enough.
I cannot wait.
You want to
watch
talk
this
about
again.
something that's going to get a second life.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope it does, because people missed out big time not seeing this in a theater. But I think the word of mouth created enough hype where it's going to smash some streaming records on its release date.
Yeah. Speaking of something that can't get here fast enough, just a day later, August 28th, the Epcot International Food and Wine Festival kicks off.
Now, you have not seen this menu yet.
No.
You're doing this cold right now. I had seen this go out a couple days ago. I am floored by presentation here. This is like Festival of the Arts level presentation, and some of these dishes, I'm just like, they really went with it creatively.
Well, I think that they had to, because we've said that there are good years and there are bad years for the Food and Wine Festival, and more recently, they've kind of been more bad than good. The fact that you have the International Food and Wine Festival, but Festival of the Arts has better food, it sort of defies logic.
I wouldn't say bad necessarily, but we have seen a lot of repeats. This feels like they took note and then ran with it.
So maybe then we'll go through the menu and just talk about the new stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that.
Let's go to, we'll start with Brew Wing, the lab. New this year, Korean barbecue wings with a gochujang
Yes.
barbecue sauce and toasted sesame. This I'm
Yep.
all about.
I will be there. Yep, for sure.
That sounds really, really good. I'm not going to worry about the beers. I just want to focus on the food, I think.
Yeah, but we'll try them. Don't worry.
We'll try
We will
them.
do our research.
Connections Eatery. They have a French onion burger new this year. Gourmet beef blend, caramelized onions, and Gruyere cheese on a toasted brioche bun. I mean, I can get something like this at Deluxe.
We have.
They
They did do a French onion burger, but that's okay.
Like, I can appreciate that they're doing something new, but this would be a pass for me because I want to do more of the food booths than I would be going and doing a sit-down area.
But it's fitting for the time of year.
Yeah. Coastal Eats, they have Peruvian ceviche, mahi-mahi shrimp, sweet potato, chulpe, choclo, and leche del tigre, as well as a seaside pot pie, shrimp scallops, crawfish tails, and lobster bisque in a puff pastry.
Disney Eats posted a picture of that seafood pot pie, and it looks so incredible. I can't even tell. The seafood is like brimming. Now, granted, okay, it's a stylized food photo. You're not going to get this coming out of the booth necessarily, but the seafood is like just spilling over the ramekin, and it doesn't look like a pie crust. It looks like a piece of bread sitting on top. It looks incredible. This is like one of my, like, I will be there trying this first dishes.
Well, it is noteworthy that it is available starting September 28th. So it is not going to be available at the start of the festival. I wish they would do away with this sort of thing.
I don't mind it. When they run the festivals as long as they do, I appreciate rotating out different things.
Much like Goya's,
Gyoza.
Yeah, sure. Of the Galaxy, this entire thing similarly will be available on September 28th. They're all dumplings, a buffalo-style dumpling with chicken, a French onion soup-style dumpling, so French onion soup twice off the rip, and then a street corn dumpling.
This is the other one that I can't wait for, that I was very excited to see. The soup dumplings, like, they are a phenomenon. So it's nice to see Disney staying on trend, because I feel like a lot of things that they bring to the festival, sometimes it's like 2 or 3 years later after something is really hot, but those soup dumplings are very popular right now, so good call on incorporating them into the festival.
The fry basket is back. Nothing has changed at the fry basket. So
and that's fine. That
that's
doesn't
fine.
need to.
Flavors from Fire, a Radicchio-style grilled beef skewer with marble potatoes, charred shallots, roasted baby peppers, and chimichurri, new to the menu this year.
Oh, you sold me on chimichurri. I would have been like, okay, cool, that's nice, but like, save room for something else. But a chimichurri, I'll go for that.
I'm going back for my corned beef. Let's see here. Earth Eats. It doesn't look like they've made any adjustments there. Nothing new. The Australia menu, mixed berry pavlova with crunchy meringue shell, macerated berries, and whipped cream. That's going to be a new dessert on their menu for this year.
I think there was a picture posted of that as well. It looked really good.
Mexico, tostada de carnitas, braised pork atop a fried corn tortilla with chipotle black beans, salsa ranchera, crema mexicana, and queso fresco, as well as a creamy flan with toasted almonds. Those will be new to the menu this year. I think that this is one that you're going to see a very long line.
Probably.
China, long line every year. Beijing, yep. I'm just calling them Beijing noodles because I'm not going to butcher that middle word. Stir-fried minced beef, cucumber, chili, and carrots in a savory Dubon sauce.
Yep, I will be trying that.
Moving on to India. Nothing is changing at India this year. The Refreshment Outpost is adding a barbecue-spiced beef stew. Interesting that this will be available starting in August. You know, like how some of these are not starting until now part of it could be things are seasonal. So if you can't get certain ingredients like that, I understand.
Or it's more cost effective when they are seasonal.
Right, when they
bring
are in
them
season.
in September.
I don't know that I would want a beef stew in August.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying before, where I don't mind that they rotate these menu items. I mean, once upon a time we did it because we loved that Canada bacon cheddar so much, but it was like a freak 90-degree day in November on our vacation, and we still had the soup. Now that we're here, I don't feel the need to be eating soup in August.
Yeah. Moving on to the Alps, a Kirschwasser tort with cherry brandy, buttercream, fondant, sugared almonds, and a cherry compote.
This is the Alps, you say?
The Alps.
They switched out the oh no, they still have that raclette. That's not going anywhere. Okay.
That pass on the raclette. Germany, nothing here has changed. I'm going to end up over at the pretzel booth anyway. The Summerfest menu. I'm not Zwiebelkuchen. I can't. Sorry. German onion cake with caramelized onions, bacon, herbs, and a savory custard. You know, I don't love a ton of onions at all, but there's something about this that just sounds intriguing.
I love onions, and I'm going to learn how to pronounce it so I can order it, probably several times.
Moving on to Spain, you have Trio de Pinchos, which is a jamón croqueta, pan con tomate, and tortilla española, as well as a paella with rock shrimp, bay scallops, and smoked mussels, and a basque cheesecake with an orange sauce. In Italy,
oh boy,
this is such a hit or miss booth at every festival. Bacchette Kisses di Pizza, traditional Napoli street food pizza dough, pepperoni, mozzarella, and tomato sauce that is new this year, as well as
very safe,
as well as a tortellini alla vodka. So again, playing it sort of safe there. And then finishing off will be a chocolate spuma, chocolate mousse, caramel sauce, espresso, whipped cream, and puffed rice.
I would maybe try the tortellini.
I would try the tortellini.
We've never, I hesitate to even say it. I was going to say we've never really met a vodka sauce that we didn't like. So,
but we also don't like most of the food that comes out of that pavilion. Not the pavilion, but at least out of that booth.
But I'll try that though.
Yeah,
at least.
Flavors of America, Gulf Coast style seafood roll.
Yep.
Warm water lobster, rock shrimp, lobster bisque, and a sherry crema on top of a toasted brioche bun, a New England slider, slow braised beef pot roast with spicy horseradish cream and fried onions. That will be a pass for me. There is nothing on that.
That's going to be an expensive booth for me.
If you go to the funnel cake booth, a huckleberry funnel cake, huckleberry ice cream, whipped cream, chocolate sauce, blackberry brandy glaze, and powdered sugar. Moving on to Japan, they have a beef wagyu don, a traditional Japanese rice bowl with American Wagyu beef at the Japan Pavilion. Well, because it is a lot cheaper, so you can sell this a la carte at a reasonable price. Steamed white rice with homemade pickles, shredded togarashi pepper, and pickled ginger. This is just I can't pronounce anything this year. This is gonna be a rough year. I am the American tourist right now.
You really are.
Well, I'm trying.
You really are. In all fairness, you're doing this cold. You haven't looked at pictures, nor did you look at menu items to try and figure out the pronunciation ahead of time.
Yeah, and
but
I didn't study in Japan, so don't come at me. All right, I can't pronounce a lot of these. I'm sorry.
But this goes back to the point I was making earlier: is look how far in we are. We're like halfway through World Showcase. How many new menu items?
Yes.
How many different things that there are? It's not like it's as easy to read through when you're like, oh, they have Spätzle,
Yeah, exactly. They've also got Osakana Karaj, crispy fried pollock with spicy mayonnaise, and a sweet and creamy yuzu sauce. Everything over in the Greece Pavilion is remaining the same. At the Tangerine Cafe, they have a Moroccan wrap with tomato, cucumber relish, and garlic sauce served on warm Moroccan flatbread.
Nice.
Belgian is the same with the waffles. Brazil is remaining the same. Just bring the good cheese bread this year. Oh, man. Beef bourguignon is back at France, but with a slight twist because they have a potato puree this year. Red wine braised short ribs. So that, and the brioche. Yeah, spiced brioche with a 3-cheese Mornay filling. That I'm certainly interested in. And then the escargot trio and a creme brulee.
Oh, boy.
So pack your patience because there is always a line.
But I feel like we're going to wait on it this year because usually we'll pass on France. But if there's creme brulee, you are the connoisseur.
Yeah. Canada remains the same. Refreshment Outpost with the poutine remains the same. Shimmering Sips. I know I wasn't going to mention alcohol, but I am going to mention a strawberry champagne trifle.
Yes.
That they are offering this year.
I might be conflating that with what I thought was the other picture. I saw a picture of one of them, but both of those sounded amazing.
Hawaii remains the same. Bramblewood Bites, a cast iron seared river trout with vanilla butternut squash puree,
Damn.
Brussels sprout salad, candied pecans, spiced pumpkin seeds, dried cranberries,
Yep.
and maple dressing. This very much is a fall flavor.
This seafood, the amount of seafood is going to kill my wallet.
Milled and mulled, butternut squash with ginger bisque. I'm all about that.
Yep.
Apple cinnamon caramel mini churro sundae with vanilla bean gelato. This is really smart where you get your fall flavors. However, for those hot days that you do get in the fall down here in Central Florida, you can still offer a sweet cold treat.
Those two booths slapped last year.
They were so good.
That was where we got the pumpkin ravioli.
Yes.
And there was that fig. Oh my gosh, what was it? I went back for seconds though, because I loved it so much. But oh my God, those two booths on fire.
Well, the pumpkin ravioli is going to be back over at Forest and Field. And
Hey.
new options that they have: autumn chili with impossible beef and a siakia sandwich.
Chachata?
Yeah, sure. Mortadella prosciutto ham, sun-dried peppers, arugula, cheese, fall squash mostarda, and pistachio pesto on warm focaccia bread.
Yep.
Swirled Showcase is going to have a liquid nitrogen frozen pumpkin cheesecake mousse with maple caramel sauce, candied pecans. That is going to be new for this year. Joffrey's has a butterscotch cookie cold brew.
Oh, damn. I missed that.
Yeah, that is going to be new this year. Near Disney Traders, there's going to be a fudge brownie cold brew, which is new this year. And then a creme brulee cold brew.
Oh, Lord.
Also new this year, and that's going to be over by the UK and Canada. That little cart that always seems to get swarms of bees. That's where you can get that. Bring your bug spray. Near Guardians of the Galaxy, a churro latte, espresso with choice of milk, dulce de leche sauce, and cinnamon syrup topped with whipped cream and cinnamon.
Well, that's great because I can use Joffrey's to fuel me through every Joey Fatone performance.
Yes, I'm very excited for you. I hope that you enjoy your Joey Fatone. But yeah, it's a very impressive menu this year. For the fan favorites that are back, you're happy to see them. But I think that there has been a lot of talk in recent years that things were getting a little stale. And I will give them credit. I feel like where they've made these adjustments, they're really plussing up the menu and thinking outside of the box to give you a better experience. Because I think I've been a little bit more critical of this festival than you have, especially with Universal having taken some of their talent away from Epcot, putting them in their park. And while they've not done a fantastic job of putting out consistent good food, they are at least taking chances, where I felt that a lot of what you were getting at Epcot, specifically at this festival, not only played it safe, but played it cheap. And I thought that they were sort of taking the easy route.
I would agree with that. They really, really stepped it up with this menu. It's an adventurous menu. It's a very, very diverse menu. I'm super excited to try it. Yeah, with all that being said, now we have to go look at a calendar and figure out some dates to go, because this is going to take multiple attempts to get through it all. And we're also going to be competing with Horror Nights. So you all are in for some really interesting dockside chats coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Monoreel Radio will always be free, but there are many ways that you can support the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to your podcast. Join the conversation on social media at Monoreel Radio on all major platforms. Share your favorite episodes with family and friends who may enjoy them. And of course, book your next trip with Jackie. Links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. We all get one story. Make yours a magical one.
On behalf of Monoreel Radio, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of.